So welcome back to another video in this N8N beginner course. My name is Saurabh from simplyautomated.com, and in this video we are going to dive into one of the most important concepts of N8N workflow, which are trigger nodes. Trigger nodes are what kick off your workflow, and today you're going to learn how you can set them up like a pro. So in N8N, every workflow starts with a trigger. Trigger node tells the workflow when to run. It could be when someone submits a form, a time of a day, or even when a new email arrives. There are many trigger nodes, but today we'll just be focusing on three nodes today: manual trigger, webhook trigger, and cron trigger, which is on schedule. So first, let's take a look at manual trigger. So this is the trigger you will use the most during your testing. It doesn't run automatically. It just helps you to test your workflow step by step. So to use it, just need to click on this plus sign. Just click on the plus sign and click on trigger manually. And let's add a set node where we can set different fields. So I'll just put in my name. So I'm just showing you on the manual trigger, what manual trigger does. So in order to run a workflow, a manual trigger, just click on execute workflow. And here you see this check mark. So that means this node has successfully run. We've got one item as the output. And then in the edit field node, we have the name as the output. So this workflow has run successfully. And next is a webhook trigger. So now let's have a look at a webhook trigger. So here, if we need to communicate with a different application, then, we can get a webhook from that application. Or if we want N8N to be used in the back end, and we have to use this particular workflow outside of N8N, then we can use this webhook trigger. And there are two methods, get and post. There are others as well, but we mostly use get and post. But for advanced workflows, you can use the others as well. We have the path, which is there by default, authentication, whether it's a basic authentication, header, JWT or none, and respond to immediately or when a node finishes, or using respond to webhook node streaming. So all these are different options. And then under options also, you have all these available options. This is a webhook trigger node, and maybe in a future video, I'll be showing you how you can use this in a particular workflow. And now let's talk about the third trigger, which is the on schedule. So here, if you want a workflow to run, on a particular day, after every hour, minutes, seconds, weeks, months, or we can also specify custom. We can put some expression here, but let's say we want this workflow to run on daily basis at midnight, or you can specify a different time as well, and then trigger at a minute. We can also add the other rules, if we want to add more than one rule. So as you can see here, this workflow will run on schedule you define here once you activate it. For testing, you can also trigger it manually by going back to the canvas and clicking on execute workflow. We also have settings. So in settings, we can see always output data, execute once, retry on fail. Always output data means that irrespective of what happens, if there is an error, there has to be some data coming out, not an error message. If you want to run this node once, no matter how many input items there are, so you can select this option. Retry on fail, this node will automatically retry if it fails, and here you can specify the maximum number of retries. And wait time between retries. On error, if there is an error in the node, then what you want to do, whether you want to stop the workflow, continue using error output. And then we can specify some notes. If we want to display the notes in the output, we can do that. We can say test. So we can see the notes here as well. So when should you use which trigger? That's the main question. So you use a manual trigger for some safe testing. You use a webhook trigger for real-time data, in forms, apps, or APIs, and you use schedule trigger for recurring tasks. And always remember, when switching from manual to real trigger, test your data carefully. So now you know how you can start the automation workflows in N8N using trigger nodes. You can find more N8N videos in the playlist, which is the N8N beginner course. I'll give a link to it in the description down below as well. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again in my next video.